54 keys in the building for the 2020. I'm back for the 2020. And I know I got a lot of new people over here, so I want to welcome y'all to the channel. Welcome. And then those that's been riding with me for a minute, I want to say, hey, y'all know how we do. We ride over here. And prior to me taking a break, I was working on the hotel employees. Okay? Because I think it's important that we break these motherfuckers down. We focused a lot on these kids. But ain't no doubt in my mind that at some point, Kenneka ended up with somebody from the hotel. Somebody from the hotel ended up with her. Okay? And y'all know how I feel about the beverage manager. I've always been on his ass. And I'm still on his ass. But let's look at everybody the police interviewed. So in this video, that's what we're going to do. We're going to look at who they interviewed. We're going to look at in what order these motherfuckers were interviewed. And we're going to look at why the fuck did y'all interview them. Okay? That's what we're going to do in this video right here. Because we had a lot of questions. And this case need to be reopened because, I mean, I feel like there's some important questions that are not being answered. They're not being answered. And it's like, they don't give a fuck. Like, they gave us that footage like, fuck us. And here we are almost 3 years in, still trying to figure out what the fuck happened. Still, to this day. But I gathered a lot of information about the hotel employees, and I put it all in this video right here. So, you know, y'all know how we do over here. We break shit down. So that's what we're going to break down. Okay? And before we do that, we're going to rewind for the one time. Come on. Ride with me. When Kenneka got off this elevator, we don't know what happened to her. We don't know who she got off with, you know, who she got on with, who she got off with. We don't know. Or do we? Remember this? This was part of the video footage that they did not want us to see. This shit. And then, don't forget about this. Now, we don't know if this was the same struggle or two separate events. But this is what they wanted us to believe happened toward the end. After going through all that, they want us to believe she went through this. It ended up like this. How? How? I'm not understanding why they won't reopen this case. How did she end up like this? They told us that she walked into this freezer at about 3:32 a.m. And then don't forget about this. These two motherfuckers holding a conversation at about 5:30, 5:50 in the morning. That's what it was. It was about 5:50. Look at them. Now, we don't know if they're discussing Kenneka. But this discussion came about 2 hours, 2.5 hours after she ended up in the freezer. At least that's what they want us to believe. And while they're holding this conversation, this is what we catch. That shit. Like I said, we don't know if they're talking about Kenneka, but it's mighty strange that this came 2 hours after the fact. Timing is everything. And then we had this motherfucker. Remember the maintenance guy come through? They told us that after Kenneka went in, the only other person or people behind her was this guy right here, and that was at about 8:34 the next evening, the evening of the night. He in and he out. Then him. And he went straight to the freezer. I don't understand that part. Do you?
We on your ass.
Did any of that shit look right to y'all? Because none of that shit looked right to me. None of it. I don't trust none of it. And that's why we need to be looking at these hotel employees, because motherfuckers was moving funny. Okay? And y'all know how we do over here. If you move funny, we on your ass. Now, he found Kenneka at about 12:25, somewhere around in there. Police got there. They cleared the scene at 5:30. But while they were there, they interviewed some people. So like I said, we're going to look at the hotel employees, and we're going to look at their statements and also the order in which they were interviewed. Because overall, police interviewed 7 employees. 7. So we're going to look at all 7 employees. So, come on. Let's go. We still riding. So after they found Kenneka shortly after 12 on the 10th, they interviewed this motherfucker, the beverage manager. And naturally so, because he found the body. And I'm quite sure at some point they told that motherfucker, like, look, don't go nowhere, motherfucker. We're going to want to talk to you. Because don't forget, we found footage of him after he found Kenneka. This shit. We found him doing this. He went back to work. He was still working. And then at about 10 minutes after this, he in the hallway looking like this. That's about 1:15 in the morning. So sometime after 1:15, the police interviewed him. And this is what he said in his statement. And pay attention to this part, where the statement took place. It says that on the early morning hours of September the 10th, they spoke with Crown Plaza employee in the north parking lot of the hotel for a statement. And I was like, wait a minute. So all this time they interviewing him in the parking lot? I was like, oh, well, damn. His shit wasn't even inside the hotel. They caught up with his ass. Now, my thing is this. Was he leaving? Was his shift over? Was he leaving for the day? They hawked his ass down if he was and caught up with him in the parking lot. He told the police that he was the assistant food and beverage manager and that he assisted with security at times when needed. And I always found that odd because I was like, well, damn, why would you? So you're the assistant food and beverage manager and you wanted to make sure that they knew that you assisted with security when needed. And I thought, like, well, why would he add that part? You know what I mean? Why would he add that part? Then I thought maybe it was to explain why he was in on the search for Kenneka. Because wasn't nobody else looking. Remember, we followed the female manager around. She wasn't looking for Kenneka. She was watching the tapes, but they weren't actively looking for her because the police was there. So maybe he added that little bit to explain why he was in on the search for her. I mean, you know. But then the police asked him to walk them through his whole day on the 9th. Whole day. And I always found that strange. But the more and more I read that, I was like, wait a minute. Like, why the fuck? If I just stumbled across a body on some random shit, why would you need to know what I did all day? Like, really? Not just 20, 30 minutes prior to me finding the body? They wanted to know what he did. They said, walk us through your day. Do that sound strange to anybody else, or am I tripping? You know, it was almost as if they had already heard some shit. You know, it might have been something as simple as some employees like, yeah, you know, Lonnie was acting funny. The beverage manager, you know, he came in earlier than usual, or he came in, you know, he stayed later than normal. So by the time they got to him, they telling him, walk us through your whole day. And that's what he did. He told the police that he started his shift at 2 o'clock p.m., which would have been the ninth. He told them that shit, it was like any other day. He did his job. And then at some point, he had to assist the police with searching for a missing person. I'm like, yeah, okay. But if his shift started at 2, then I wonder what time his shift was supposed to end. What, 2 to 10, 2 to 11? Because remember, they didn't know his schedule, because remember, in that one report, it said that the managers did not punch in and punch out. So, I mean, was he salary? And again, was his shift 2 to 10? I mean, 2 to 2, nigga? Did he do 12-hour shifts? I don't know. But he told them, like, he just was doing his job. But what he forgot to tell them is that he was following motherfuckers. We saw him.
We on your ass.
On September the 9th at 8:23 and 39 seconds, I showed y'all the video of the female manager leaving from the front desk and coming down those stairs and heading down this hallway, right? And then 10 seconds later, at 8:23 and 49 seconds, the beverage manager is on her ass. Now, he cut down this hallway right here, but she went the other way. And it just seemed strange to me because we were watching him move. But then at 8:24 and 21 seconds, she headed back upstairs. Okay? And when she gets back upstairs, that's when she calls the police. And she's calling the police on Miss Teresa and them. They up there, they acting up there. And she called the police. The police was dispatched at 8:29. So when they got there, they told her to watch the tapes. Okay? They got her watching the tapes. And when she recognized Kenneka on surveillance, she told them, she went to the police and she told them, like, look, I seen her go down here in this lower level and I never seen her come back out. And the police said, well, shit, show us. Show us where she was, where she went. And she took them downstairs. She's leading them to the lower level. Okay? She took them down there at about 11:37. And 10 minutes later, look who the fuck was behind them. Him. The beverage manager. And I did a video about the beverage manager, and we watched him track the police. So every time, you know, we seen the police come out the lower level, he went in. When he went in, they came out. And it was almost like he was following these motherfuckers around the hotel. And that's why when he got to the part of his statement where he said he was searching for Kenneka, and while he was searching, he knew that the police was at the dock area. He knew where they were. That's what he told us in this statement right here. That he knew where they were. And understand this. After he found Kenneka, when we see him going that lower level after the police at 11:47, we didn't see him no more until he walked in this kitchen upstairs to find Kenneka. The beverage manager told the police that he first checked the walk-in cooler, and then that there's a second door that leads to the freezer. And then that's where he found her body. And I got to thinking, I'm like, so not only did you do this fake ass search, you found her behind 2 doors? Not 1, 2. The one to the cooler and the one to the freezer. He didn't do no searching, y'all. He didn't. There was no search. Okay? And I want to know why he following motherfuckers down here in the lower level. If Kenneka was supposed to have been in this kitchen, off in the cut, why is he worried about following motherfuckers down to the lower level? That makes no sense to me. I mean, like following a nigga to New York, but the stash in Florida. Like, if Kenneka was found on a separate floor, why is he worried about what the fuck going on in the lower level? I mean, that raised a lot of questions, you know? So, since we watched him move around this hotel, I don't trust him. I don't. And from the tone of this interview, the police didn't either. But they concluded at 2:24 in the morning. Right after they interviewed the beverage manager on September the 10th, 6 minutes later, they interviewed him, the security guard. They interviewed him at 2:30 a.m. And if you've been following me for a minute, you know that I've never done a video highlighting the security guard. And we're going to get into that. But I felt like he never knew exactly what was going on. That's just my opinion. And that's subject to change. Fuck it. But right now, I want to look at his statement. Let's talk about him real quick. In his statement, he told the police that his shift started at 11 p.m. on Friday and ended at 7 in the morning. He stated that during the evening hours, between 1 and 2, he's not sure exactly what time, but he said that he received a noise complaint coming from room 926. And I was like, okay, well, let's think about what was going on between 1 and 2. Now, we know Kenneka is there. And regardless of what time you think she got there, between 1 and 2, she's there, period. Okay? And during this time period is also when she supposedly sent the text to her sister. And I did a video about that. And I believe that Kenneka was reaching out for help. That's just my opinion. Okay? So when the security guard got this complaint, he went up there. And he said that when he got off the elevator, it was two niggas standing outside the door to room 926. He said that he told them, like, look, there was a noise complaint and that he needed to talk to the people in the room. Well, he asked them who the room was registered to. And one of them niggas said, him. And I was like, well, damn, I mean... So one of the niggas standing outside the door told you the room is registered to him. Because that's what he just told us in this statement. Excuse me. That's what he just told us. And I thought, like, well, I wonder who that was. Killer? Because remember when it was something about, like, somebody asked Irene if the room was registered to her, and she said it was registered to him. And so I wonder who it was standing outside this door. You know what I mean? He then tells police that he knocked on the door and a girl came to the door and he told her, like, look, y'all need to be the fuck quiet. And whoever it was that answered the door, whoever the girl was, complied. Was like, yep, we'll turn the music down. We'll quiet down. And then he said that he could smell alcohol coming from the room. And that at that time, it was about 10, 15 motherfuckers in there. Couple things. The fact that he said he had to knock on the door kind of bothers me. Because you just told us that when you approach the door, it's two niggas standing outside the door, and one of them niggas then told you the room is registered to him. Why the fuck would you need to knock on the door? Why he just didn't let you in? I mean, I don't know if I'm tripping, but, it just seemed odd to me. And then I want to know who answered the door. And this motherfucker said he could smell alcohol coming from out of there. I mean, why he ain't mention weed? We know they getting high. We saw them. He just said he smelled alcohol. You ain't smell no weed? You know, that kind of thing. So let me just tell y'all why I find that suspicious. It's suspicious to me because in one of the girls' statements, they said that someone from the front desk told them to cover up the smoke detectors. Now, I can't remember if it was a shirt or a towel, but the instruction given was to cover up the smoke detector by somebody from the front desk. And so what that tells me is that somebody from the front desk knew they was up there smoking weed. The security guard knew they was up there smoking weed. He had to have known. So why didn't he tell that part to the police? And why would you continue to let this party go on when they up there smoking, they drinking? There's a gang of motherfuckers in there. Usually hotels will break that kind of shit up. But they let them continue on. I don't understand that. And we know who was at the front desk that night, the night auditor, him. So is he the motherfucker told them to cover up the smoke detector? Because wasn't no one there but him. We saw no one else behind that counter but him. So when they got that noise complaint, y'all know how this shit go. A guest called down to the front desk first. And then the front desk called security. So this nigga right here at the front desk sent the security guard up there. But he ain't break up the party. All he wanted those kids to do was quiet the fuck down. That was it. That's it, and that's all, nigga. And why? Those kids were allowed to continue drinking and smoking, talking loud. That makes no sense to me. It never has. And just like this motherfucker sent security up there to check on that, in my opinion, he the same motherfucker had him running around delivering towels and shit. Running around. Because when I saw the security guard running around and throwing his hands up in the air, he looked frustrated to me. Almost as if he was tired of that nigga running him around that hotel. I don't know. That's just what that looked like to me. The security guard then stated that 2 hours later, he went to check the ninth floor, and when he got off the elevator, he saw 3 girls walking in the hallway knocking on doors. So when he asked them what the fuck they was doing, he said they told him they was looking for their friend. And he said then they went back into the room. He said that he saw those same girls at about 5 o'clock in the morning, and they were asking him where and how they could get back to the parking lot, and that he was in the main lobby when they approached him. Okay, so a couple things. 2 hours later would mean that he went back up there between 3 and 4. Okay? And so between 3 and 4, he see 3 girls walking in the hallway knocking on doors. And then they went back in the room. He stated that he didn't see these girls again until about 5. And I watched the footage of him running around the hotel and, in the lobby. And I don't see nobody approach him around 5 o'clock. Matter of fact, all the footage that I watched, I'm kind of upset at the fact that there was no interaction with him and Monifa and them. Because in my mind, this is who he saw. Monifa and Shamaya and who what? Maybe Bree Bree? But we know Bree Bree didn't get back to about 3:30. So it had to be after 3:30 if it's them 3. You understand what I'm saying? But what I don't understand is why the fuck they would be asking him where and how to get back to the parking lot from the main lobby. We watched Bree Bree move. Bree Bree was all through that motherfucker. She ain't know how to get back to the parking lot. That part just don't sound right to me. And like I said, I watched the footage. I don't see them interacting with him at all. But I know a lot of people was on his ass because they came out with footage of him doing this shit. Running around that motherfucker. And it was like, oh, he looking for Kenneka, he this, he that. But I don't think that's what that was. And if you know a little bit about me, you know that I have hospitality in my background. And I've worked night audit before. What I saw him doing was not out of the norm. Because I've done it. Especially if I'm there overnight and I'm up at the front by myself and it's just me and the security guard. I mean, I had that nigga doing all kind of shit. Because understand this, if you're at the front desk as a night auditor, you're not supposed to leave the front desk. So when people would call down for towels and extra pillows and shit, I would send him. I would send security. You know? That's not out of the norm. So when I seen him delivering pillows and they, people like, oh, that's not his job and this, that, and the other, I'm like, shit, I've done it before. And they do it. They'll deliver pillows, blankets, all kind of shit. So I had no problem running the security guard around, getting shit. No problem with it. But a lot of people thought he was in on whatever happened to Kenneka. And I don't think he was. But he was the second employee that they interviewed. And naturally so, because he's the security guard. He's supposed to be securing shit, okay? So, yeah, they were going to talk to him. And the police didn't speak to no one else that night. But on September the 12th, at about 3:50, the police went back up to the Crown Plaza and they got a printout of the hourly employees for September the 8th through September the 10th. That's when we found out that the hourly employees did not include the names of any managers because the managers don't punch in or out. And it was at that moment that the police asked the general manager and the senior VP about the employees that may have worked and vacuumed on the 9th floor of the hotel on September the 8th or the 9th. Hotel management identified 3 possible employees who may have worked on the floor. And what it sounds like to me is that 2 of the employees would possibly need a translator. That's what it sounded like to me. But and those 2 particular employees were not there at the time. But the third one was. And that's who they interviewed next. Employee number 3. Now, in this interview, they made sure that he understood that the interview was non-custodial and that he was free to leave at any time. He ended up telling the police that his work schedule was 4:30 p.m. to 1 a.m. on September the 8th. Okay? He told them that he did not work on the 9th floor as was told to the police by other hotel management. He stated that he worked in the lobby that day. When the police asked him what type of work he performed, he told them that he shampooed the carpets and he cleaned up the ramps to the hallways. He also stated that he responded to calls from individual rooms. When asked if he vacuumed, he told the police he did not vacuum. And I'm like, okay, let's pause for a minute. So he gets there on September the 8th. He gets to the hotel to start his shift at 4:30 p.m. And he doesn't get off until 1 a.m. Now, I went looking for the footage because I wanted to see, I'm trying to find out who this is. So I went looking for the footage from the 8th. Now, on Rosemont site, all the footage from the 8th starts at about like 8:55, 9 o'clock. So anything prior to that, we don't know. We can't see it. But what I do know is that the only person I saw vacuuming the lobby was him. So not only do I want to know who this mystery employee is, I want to know why they so fixated on finding out who the fuck vacuumed. You understand what I mean? Why are they so concerned about who vacuumed? If you got an answer for me, put that shit down in the comments. Cause I really would like to know what was so important about that. But it had to be something to it. Had to be. And he's vacuuming around the time, it's like 12:15, 12:30. Right around the time that these niggas come through. Mike, Killer, Lil Ty. He's the only guy I seen vacuum in the lobby. So, is this who police was talking to? I mean, I don't know. Because in his statement, he said that he worked in the lobby that day, but he did not vacuum. And I told y'all, this the only motherfucker I see vacuuming. That's it. So, was he lying? Or he just didn't want to admit that he was vacuuming? Because like I said, it sounds like there's more to that. You understand what I'm saying? And then he also told the police that he responded to calls from individual rooms. What rooms did you go to, Nick? Did you go to 926? And the police asked him if he had any contact with anyone from room 926, and he said no. So it's like, well, why would they ask him that? It don't feel right. And they then asked him again about the hallway to the floors. And they wanted to know when those hallways were typically vacuumed. And he told them that the housemen usually vacuum between 4:30 and 5:30 every day. So not to interrupt hotel guests. So is that just the floors? I mean, like, why we see this motherfucker vacuum in the lobby after midnight? I wonder if that's who this is. Y'all let me know what y'all think. Y'all think this is him? His interview lasted from about 5 o'clock to about 5:18. So they talked to him for about 20 minutes. At the end of the interview, they asked him, like, look, do you have any additional information for us? He said no. And they let him go. So on September the 14th, at about 1:35 in the afternoon, the police went to conduct a door knock at one of the Crown Plaza Hotel employees' residence. Okay? When they got there, that employee was not there. Okay? They didn't went to this nigga house. Okay? And like I said, when they got there, he wasn't there. But they spoke with one of his neighbors, and that neighbor confirmed that whoever this employee is did live there with his mother. And that they didn't know his work schedule. But what they told me was they know this nigga got a job. Okay? But he wasn't home. So the police left their information with the neighbor. And then they said they also left a card on the door of this employee. Okay? They left the building at about 1:45 p.m. So they was there about a hot 10 minutes. Well, later on that evening at about 5:45, the two officers were asked to go back out to the apartment building in an attempt to speak with the employee. They were met at the address by two tactical officers, and they conducted a second door knock with negative results, meaning again, they were called back out there and this nigga's not home. The tactical officer stated that they would stay in the area and try to call the police if they saw any lights on in the apartment. And then that's when they left. Now, here's my thing about this. When they first went to this apartment, there was only two officers. When they went back a second time, first off, somebody had to have called them and told them, like, look, this nigga home. But just so happened when they got there, he wasn't there. And that was about 5:45. Now, my thing is this. Why the fuck would they need tactical officers when they went back to this door? Did this nigga pose a threat? You understand what I'm saying? Who is this? And why were they looking for him? And like I said, not only were they looking for him, they showed back up, 4 hours later, with tactical officers. Were they expecting a confrontation with this nigga? Nevertheless, he wasn't home. He's gone. I mean, was he running? Was he scared? Whatever the case may be, he wasn't there when they got back. So let's look at what happened on September the 15th. On September the 15th at 9:30 in the morning, the police went back up to the hotel and spoke with another employee number 4. They met with this employee in the supervisor's office in housekeeping. The first fucking thing that this employee told them was that he did not want to speak in front of his supervisor. So he must have thought he was. Like his supervisor was going to be in on this interview. But I found that odd that that was the very first thing that he said. So my thing is, okay, why not? I mean, what is it that you have to say that you can't say in front of another motherfucker? You understand what I'm saying? And then most importantly, who is his supervisor? Because this nigga seemed like he's scared. And whatever it is, like I said, whatever it is he got to say, he don't want to say it in front of his supervisor. So again, who is his supervisor? And it's got to be a housekeeping supervisor. He works in housekeeping. He told him he's a housekeeper. Shit, 2 + 2 = 4. But he stated that he did work the weekend of the 8th, the 9th, and the 10th. But he said that he didn't have no interaction on the 9th floor. He said the only thing that he remember on the 9th floor was standing at the elevator and a black female with red hair got off the elevator and walked past him. That's it. That's it and that's all. Ain't nothing else. That's what he said. The police then asked him about his brother and asked him if his brother ever dated Kenneka. This employee told them his brother never dated Kenneka. And matter of fact, he didn't even know Kenneka until all this shit popped off. And I thought, why would the police ask you that? What reason did they have for asking you about your brother? And not only did they want to know about your brother, they wanted to know if he ever dated Kenneka. Almost as if they felt like he had connections to this party. Because they then asked him if he was ever in that room, 926, and he said no, he was never in there. So again, why did the police interview him? And was this the motherfucker they was looking for the day before? Because don't forget they went to somebody's house. Were they looking for him? Because they ended up with his schedule. If you look at the bottom of this report, his schedule says Friday, Saturday, starting September the 15th from 9 to 5, and then Sunday, 10 to 6. They're interviewing him that Friday at 9:30. He got there at 9, they was there at 9:30 on his ass. Why? So up until this point, the police has interviewed the beverage manager, the security guard, the cleaner, because they trying to figure out who the fuck vacuumed on the 9th floor. But this motherfucker made it clear he ain't vacuumed shit. He said he shampooed carpets. So we're just going to call him the cleaner because they interviewed him. Okay? And then they interviewed the housekeeper, employee number 4. So within days, the police interviewed 4 motherfuckers in 5 days. 2 days after they interviewed the housekeeper, On September the 17th at about 5:30 p.m., the police went back to the Crown Plaza and they spoke with the female front desk clerk. And she told them in her statement that she was there, she was scheduled to work on September the 8th from 3 to 11:30. Now, in her statement, it seems like they're asking her about the check-ins. They're asking her about who reserved these rooms. So they're inquiring about Shaniqua, okay? And this front desk clerk tells them that two females came in and that they gave her a New Jersey's driver's license. And the photo on the driver's license matched Shaniqua. She then said that they were trying to reserve a room for 2 nights and the payment that they provided was declined. They actually gave her two different cards and both cards declined. And because they declined, she told them like, look, I can't give y'all no motherfucking keys. Y'all payment didn't go through. So Shaniqua and them left and told her they'll be back. So the police in her interview was just asking about the check-in. So, but while they were there, they interviewed him 10 minutes later at 5:40. Police did a follow-up interview with the beverage manager at 5:40, okay? And this interview is a little different. They start off the interview asking him about the temperature gauges. And he stated that, he's telling them like, look, I ain't look at no temperature gauge. Then they asked him about whether or not the doors to both the cooler and the freezer were closed. The beverage manager told them that he was sure that both doors were closed and latched. They then asked him if he recalled if the lights were on or off in the walk-in cooler or the freezer. He stated that he couldn't remember, but that he was sure he didn't touch any light switches. He said that when he was searching the units, he was using a flashlight off his keychain. Couple things. When they asked him about whether or not the doors were open or closed, he told them he was sure that both doors were closed and latched. But if you recall in the police report, the police said that before they cleared the scene, they checked both doors. And what they found out was that the cooler door did not close all the way. That's what they show us right here in the walkthrough. It's left slightly ajar, but it's supposed to close all the way. So understand this. Before the police cleared the scene on September the 10th, they already knew that one of the doors did not close all the way. So in this interview that they're holding with him on September the 17th, and they ask him about the doors, they already know that one of the doors fucked up. But he told them that he was sure that both doors were closed and latched. One or two things is going on here. Either one, he's lying, or that should have indicated to the police that at some point after Kenneka went in there, somebody closed the door behind her. Simple. And not only that, he was sure about the doors being closed and latched. He remembered that it was cold when he went in there. But when they asked him about whether or not the lights were on or off inside there, he couldn't remember. That's always been a problem for me. Always. I mean, shit, the lights were either on or they were off. And then he went on to tell us that he was using a flashlight off his keychain. Again, this interview is totally different. The police also asked this motherfucker what his reaction was to finding the body in the freezer. The beverage manager told them that he had never found the body and was extremely nervous. He said that he thought the police officer was behind him when he entered the cooler. But then he said when he realized that the police was not behind him, he went and got the police officers and brought them back to the freezer. Couple things. At no point does he look nervous after he finds Kenneka. Matter of fact, I just showed y'all, that motherfucker went back to work. That's what his reaction was. He went back to work. And in this second interview, he tells us that he thought the police officer was behind him when he went into the cooler. And that when he realized the police officer went behind him, he went and got the police officer. But in the first interview, he told us that he knew the police was at the dock. The police weren't behind him. That's what he said in the first statement. He knew they were at the dock. Now he's telling us that, oh shit, I thought the police officer was behind me. It's lies, all lies. I'm going with the first statement. He knew they were at the dock, and when he went and got the police officer, I showed y'all, he came back with the police like 1 minute later. They were right there. Right there. That part never made sense to me. And they ended this follow-up interview with the beverage manager at about 6 o'clock. So they spoke to him for about 20 minutes. And in the police report, let me tell y'all this. In the police report on September the 17th, while they did this follow-up interview with him, the beverage manager, aka Lenny, gave the police a flash drive of video footage of Kenneka. And I was like, huh? This motherfucker shouldn't have been able to get him shit. They know he lying. And they allowing this motherfucker to hand over evidence. Because that's what that was. So we all know he's lying. The beverage manager's lying. And he's giving them video footage. For almost 3 years, we've uncovered the fact that the video footage had been edited. And he one of the motherfuckers turning over the footage. How is that possible? And so in my mind, if he's the one turning over evidence, we have the right to question the footage. We do. But right after they spoke to him, they went and talked to another front desk clerk. Him. Employee number 6. And this is the front desk clerk. They interviewed him at about 6:20. And what he told them in his statement was that he was scheduled to work on September the 8th from 3 to 11:30. He said while he was there, 2 females came in asking about a room. So the other female front desk clerk, she tells him like, oh look, I already got a reservation for them. They card was declined. And they were supposed to go get a different means of payment. So he stated that all he did was brought up the reservation and matched up the reservation name to the driver's license. And he said once he verified that, he swiped the new card and the payment went through. And he gave them keys to room 926. So again, the police is asking about the check-ins. They're asking about Shaniqua. Okay? And this front desk clerk, he made it seem like he ain't did nothing wrong. He like, look, I checked them in, they swiped their card, payment went through, I gave them keys. That's it, that's all. And so the police was satisfied with that. They left. But the next day, they did a follow-up interview with him, the security guard. And guess what? This interview took place at the police station. They didn't catch this nigga on the job on the 18th. He showed up at the police station. So let's look at what he said in his second statement. This interview started at about 2:46 p.m. on September the 18th. And the police started off by asking him about incident reports. And they wanted to know if incident reports was part of his motherfucking job description. And the security guard told them that he only complete reports when the issue is a quote unquote big deal. So the police was like, well, shit. What would be considered a big deal? And guess what? The security guard couldn't even answer. He could provide no examples, is what it said. Why not? The police then asked him about noise complaints, and they wanted to know if he responded to any calls overnight. The security guard told them that he did receive a noise complaint call via radio from the front desk at about 2:30. And I'm like, wait a minute, pause, nigga. Because in your first statement, you told us that the noise complaint came between 1 and 2. Now he's telling us that the complaint was between 2 and 2:30. That just don't seem right to me. Because as far as I'm concerned, between 2 and 2:30, that's when Bree and Mike and them left. And I think that's when Kenneka left. Because I believe she got off that elevator at 2:24. And not only that, that noise complaint that came in between 2 and 2:30, we know who called it in. There was a guy in room 930. When he spoke to police, he told them that he called the desk at about 2:30. Okay? And so I'm assuming that's the complaint that the security guard was responding to. 2 plus 2 equals 4. But this same guy from room 930 also told police that he called in one at 12:30. So he made 2 calls. One at 12:30, one at about 2:30. So why didn't the security guard tell us about that call? Because he's there. We know his schedule. He worked 11 to 7. So when this guy at 9:30 called down to the front desk at 12:30, why didn't he respond to that call? Or did this nigga right here never give him the call? I'm just saying. The security guard went on to give them damn near the same story that he gave them in the first statement. And that was that when he went to respond to that noise complaint, when he got off the elevator, it was 2 niggas standing outside the door. But this time he says that these guys are on their phones. So he tells the guys that, about the noise complaint and that he needed to talk to somebody in the room. But before that, he asked who was the room registered to. And again, one of those niggas said, the room is registered to me. So one of the guys texts somebody in the room to open up the door. He said the girl that came to the door had on those big sunglasses. So I'm assuming that's Irene. Irene's at the door. He said, and there was a tall black guy standing behind her. He said he didn't go in the room, but this time he could smell alcohol and marijuana. I'm like, yeah, we knew that. Had to. I told you. Had to. The police then asked him if he asked the group to refrain from smoking. And the security guard told them he did not. And the problem is, he was supposed to. You know what I mean? He was supposed to. And he didn't. And now he's admitting that he smelled weed in the room. That's the problem. And then check this out. Why he tell the police that one of the niggas outside the door offered him their phone numbers to call if there was any other complaints? And he said he didn't take dude number. And I was like, what? That shit sounded fictional as hell. So you want me to believe one of these niggas was trying to give you their phone number to report a noise complaint? No, nigga. Mm-mm. Maybe to buy a bag. But not no noise complaint. So I don't know where the hell that came from. But then he said that, again, he didn't write down the number, and then the guys went back in the room. So the police then started to ask him again about noise complaints. And they asked him, when do they normally call the police for noise complaints? And the security guard told them that he'll call the police after 3 warnings. Now, we just discussed dude at 9:30. We know he called twice. I mean, did they not get any other noise complaints? Because now you have one room making 2 phone calls. And now he tells us that they only file incident reports when somebody get kicked out. But understand this, you're supposed to log noise complaints. I know we did. I don't know if it's like standard procedure, but we did. It was kind of like having a paper trail of the noise complaints. So that part don't sound right to me. But then he goes on to say that sometime after 3 o'clock, he went to deliver the folios, and the front desk radioed him and told him 3 girls was walking on the 9th floor. He said that when he made contact with the girls, one of the females told him she was looking for her sister. And he told them that they needed to either go back to their room or go wait in the lobby. At some point, one of the girls had to have asked him about watching the tape, watching the surveillance, because he said that he told the group they would have to speak to front desk about reviewing any cameras. So somebody had to have brought that up, okay? But here's my problem with this. Couple things. The night auditor is sending the security guard back up to the 9th floor a little after 3 o'clock, talking about his 3 girls walking around up there. And I'm like, so were they disturbing the peace? Was there another noise complaint? How did he know that 3 girls was walking around up there? And when he sent him up there, it's a little after 3 o'clock. And I've told y'all, we've talked on numerous occasions about the crucial time. And I believe the crucial time is between 2:30 and 3:30. And here we got the security guard being sent up to the 9th floor around 2:30 and around 3:30. It almost feels like a distraction. You know, like he was being sent away from where the shit was really popping off. But guess who's sending him? Him. This motherfucker. Got him running around. And you know what? If they would have reviewed those cameras at about 3:30, Kenneka could still be with us. But they didn't. And that's a problem. But later on in the security guard statement, he told the police that he was leaving the country on September the 22nd. So he telling them 4 days after this interview, he out of here. And that was a red flag for a lot of people, because they was like, what the fuck he running for? Why he gotta leave the country? But y'all, what it seemed like to me is that at some point, I think the security guard put 2 and 2 together. I don't think he was in on what happened to Kenneka, but I think he has a pretty good idea of what happened to her and who was involved. And he got the fuck up out of here 4 days after this interview. And police let him go. They let him go. But it seemed like his interview was tailored around the noise complaints. And that's it. That's it. But again, they let him go. And they caught up with the last employee, him. On September the 22nd at about 4:38 p.m., the police interviewed the maintenance man. And the maintenance man did tell them that he worked the weekend of September 8th, 9th, and 10th. And he worked second shift from 3 to 11. They asked him what his job duties was, and he said that he walks the buildings and complete a list of various items. And one of the items that he has to check is the freezer and cooler temperature readings. Okay? So police interviewed him because he was the second person that they seen on surveillance after Kenneka went into the kitchen. This shit. This is who this is. But he told us that once he got into the kitchen, first off, let me back up. He said that he only went in there because the door was open more than usual. That wooden door was open more than usual. He said, and it was open more than it was the night before. Keep that in mind. But he said that once he got in there, he was only in there for a minute before he received a call from front desk telling him that somebody shitted in the pool and that he needed to go check it out. So that's what he did. That's why we see him in and out. Let me tell y'all the problem that I have with this. It seems to me like somebody watched him go in there. And when he got that call from the front desk telling him to go check the pool, it was, in my mind, was to redirect him away from this area. He also told us that in his statement, he said, given his observation, he entered that kitchen area thinking someone walked in there. And I told y'all, he said the door was open more than usual, and it was open more than it was the night before. So he's walking this area, okay? And he said that while he was looking in the area, he checked the temperature reading and soon received a call from the front desk. Let me tell you what problem I have with this. So when he went into this kitchen area, he checked the freezer. He said he checked the temperature. But we never saw him check the freezer that they found Kenneka in. Why not? Did he just overlook that one? He was looking back there. He never went back there and checked the temperature though. So that makes me believe that that freezer was never supposed to be on. Otherwise, why wouldn't he check it? He checked the other one over that motherfucker. Why he didn't check that one? Only thing I can come up with was that the freezer was not supposed to be on. But you remember in the beverage manager's interview, he said that when he went in there, although he didn't remember when if the lights were on or off, that motherfucker remembered that it was cold. So the freezer was on. So, yeah. And understand this. We had the beverage manager tracking her. We had that motherfucker on the heels of the police. So it's not far-fetched for me to believe that he saw this motherfucker too. I told y'all timing is everything. And he said he was only in there a minute before he got that phone call. And I showed y'all. The phone call that he received was from him. Yeah, the front desk clerk. It came from him. But in this same footage, it shows that he received a phone call first. So somebody called the front desk, and after he took this call, he radioed the maintenance man. So then the question is, who the fuck called the front desk? You know what I mean? Who called the front desk? That's a question they should be asking. And not only that, was there shit really in the pool? You understand what I'm saying? It could have been a situation where when he got down there, you know, it wasn't no shit in the pool. He called back up there like, look, I don't know what y'all talking about. Ain't no shit in the pool. Because I'm one who feel like he was being redirected. So I want to know if this was a lie. You know what I mean? Was this a lie? Because all we have him saying in his statement is that after he went down there, he had to call his boss and tell his boss that the pool needed to be shut down. But for what reasons? Was it for the shit? Or something else? They need to ask him that. I don't understand how we still have all these questions and no answers. And to me, these are important questions. And y'all know me, and I teach my kids, you have to ask the right questions in order to get the right answers. And I just feel like the police wasn't asking the right questions. The maintenance man was the last person interviewed by police. So there you have it. The police interviewed 7 employees. They took 9 statements, all within 12 days. Now, was that a thorough investigation? No, absolutely not. Because there were some employees that should have been interviewed, but wasn't. Like him, the night auditor. He had the security guard running around, and they seemed so concerned about the noise complaints and incident reports and shit when they spoke to the security guard. Why not talk to the motherfucker who actually took the complaint? It just makes sense to me. And they should have interviewed them. Because in my mind, they were describing what happened to Kenneka. So what did they see? And they should have interviewed her, the female manager, because she's interacting with the police. She was the one called the police to come back out there. We got the beverage manager following her around that motherfucker. We should have had a statement from her, but we didn't. And last but not least, we should have had a statement from this motherfucker. Because around the time that the female manager is upstairs calling the police, this nigga lurking around down here near the kitchen. Because if y'all not familiar with this area, where he lurking at, it's right there by the kitchen where they found Kenneka. Right there. So, yeah, he's suspecting a motherfucker too. And we might discuss that in the next video. But I'm going to see where this video takes us first. But out of the 7 employees, to me, it seemed like these 4 were most important. The beverage manager, of course, because he found the body. He was lying. He was following motherfuckers around. He handing over footage. He was on their radar. And they interviewed him twice. And then the cleaner, before they interviewed the cleaner, I told y'all in that report, it said police were told that there were 3 possible employees who could have vacuumed the 9th floor. They only interviewed him. Why not interview the other 2? He told y'all he didn't vacuum on the 9th floor. So why didn't they interview the other 2 possible employees? Seems like he was their main concern. Why? And the police only interviewed the security guard about noise complaints, responded to noise complaints on the 9th floor, and they interviewed him twice. But I got a feeling that the second interview was closer to the truth. But he didn't give us the whole truth. He got the fuck up out of here. And then we had the housekeeper. The same motherfucker who didn't want to speak in front of his supervisor. I'm wondering if one of these 3 motherfuckers is his supervisor. I mean, just a thought. But then they asked him about his brother. Let me show y'all who could possibly be his brother. Him. The nigga in the blue jacket. But let me explain why I say that. This housekeeper was the only employee that they asked about a brother dating Kenneka. And on September the 12th, the police spoke to the nigga in the blue jacket because rumors were circulating that he was at the party because we saw that nigga in the kitchen. In his statement, the police asked him whether or not he dated Kenneka. And understand this, out of all the niggas that they interviewed from this party, he was the only one they asked that. And then 3 days later, when they interviewed the housekeeper, they want to know if his brother ever dated Kenneka. Did they think the nigga in the blue jacket was lying? I mean, just food for thought. Because we all know it was some shady shit going on at that hotel. But I don't think it ended with those kids. In my opinion, Kenneka ended up with a hotel employee. And one, if not more, of these employees that were interviewed can tell us what the fuck happened. But nobody's talking. And if I remember correctly, didn't Zach say that didn't he tell us that he interviewed one of the hotel staff? I wonder who that was. We never saw it. I mean, I really do want to know who that was. In my mind, they all suspect, all of them. And that's why when I heard Miss Teresa say,
I believe that someone in this hotel killed my child.
I felt that. I felt it. How could you not? Especially after watching this video right here, the employee shakedown. Somebody at the hotel, somebody that works there knows what happened to her daughter. Simple. And despite what Rosemont Police Department told us on that fucking MTV special.
So I find it ludicrous that anybody truly believes that there was any conspiracy or any cover-up.
We know better than that. They think we stupid. And hopefully this video will give us a better understanding as to what happened that night. I know this video is going to make for a good discussion. I'm back. We back. I'm going to meet y'all down in the comments. Let the discussion begin.
We on your ass.